Imagine I offer you $1 million to draw a perfect picture, all the detail of what's inside this box. One rule: you can't open it. Could you do it? Could you work out how to see inside a sealed box? I bet you couldn't. But in 1971, a guy named Jeff did. He actually worked out how to peer inside a closed box. And yes, he won $1 million doing it. So how did he pull this off? He invented a machine so revolutionary the world had never seen anything like it. That machine? The CAT scanner. Now, we don't really care what's inside this box, but we do care what's inside this box. Inside here is our brain. We care about our brain. Here's a fact. Prior to Jeff's CAT scan in 1971, the only way to see the living brain was to cut open the skull. Yes, seriously, they had to do surgery to see it. Think of the impact. Today, if you have a headache, a CAT scanner can take a picture of your entire brain in just 20 seconds. 20 seconds! But if you had a headache before 1971, before Jeff's CAT scan, there was a good chance your doctor might just shrug and say, "We're not sure. We'll probably have to cut you open and take a look." That is actually shocking. Put this in perspective. By 1971, humanity had soared into space, split the atom, invented antibiotics saving millions, even turned a soup can into million-dollar art. And yet, we still had no way to see the living brain without cracking open our heads. Are you kidding me? So what did doctors do before 1971? Just guess? Well, they relied on the plain X-ray, discovered by a German guy named Röntgen in 1895. When Röntgen first found this spooky new ray, he wasn't quite sure what it was, so he called it X, the unknown ray, and promptly volunteered his wife Anna for testing. As you do. The result? The world's first human X-ray, wedding ring and all. Anna was a brave wife, but when it comes to the brain, plain X-ray has a problem. The skull is rock hard and absorbs most of the X-rays. The brain inside is soft and absorbs almost none. So a plain X-ray looks like this. Crystal clear skull, but the brain in here, you can't see it. It's totally useless. Before Jeff, this was pretty much all doctors could see of the living brain, i.e. zero. And there's another problem. We are cramming a 3D object into a single 2D picture. It's no good. So how did Jeff fix all this? How did he work out a way to see the brain inside the skull? How did he invent the revolutionary CAT scan? A little secret, his light bulb moment did not start with the brain. It started with this, the Great Pyramid. Jeff wanted a way to see inside the Great Pyramid. Why? Well, he's like you and me. He wanted to know, is there gold still hidden inside? But a big pyramid is complicated. So he's simplified this fun idea down to this. How do I see inside a closed box? But then he gets serious. If I can figure out how to see inside a box, he thought, maybe, just maybe, I can see inside the human skull. Maybe I can make a machine to see the living human brain. And Jeff's mind starts racing. And soon he has a plan. To do this, he worked out he would have to reinvent the X-ray. using computers. And to do that, he would also have to reinvent computers and then apply it all in a way that no one had ever thought of before. Sounds ambitious? Let's look at his plan a bit more closely. What was his big idea? Well, rather than just one X-ray beam, which was all anyone had done to that point, Jeff would try multiple X-ray beams from multiple angles. In fact, a full 360-degree spin. Wow, okay. Then he would invent a powerful new sensor, so powerful it could detect the tiny number of precious X-rays passing through the soft brain. And finally, on a new computer that he would invent, he would combine all this new X-ray data, separate the signals coming from the skull and brain, and reconstruct a crystal clear image of the living brain. I could have thought of that. Sounds logical. Well, no. For one, computers in the 1960s were the size of a house, cost a fortune, and had the processing power of a toaster. And if that wasn't bad enough, Jeff worked for EMI, the same company that had just signed the Beatles. EMI had a small engineering department. EMI, after all, stands for Electrical and Music Industries. But the big bosses at EMI cared more about music money than bankrolling a crazy brain scanner idea. So they gave Jeff next to no budget. Jeff, you're on your own. Look, I'm going to tell you what happened, how Jeff did the impossible. But just quickly, I have to tell you about the man himself. I mean, who was Jeff? Who was this crazy guy? Well, his full name was Godfrey Hounsfield, which is why everyone just called him Jeff. He was a self-taught engineer from England who, during World War II, worked on radar. Yes, everyone thought Jeff was a genius, but they also thought he was a bit absent-minded. This is a diary entry written by Jeff's friend at the time. Jeff begged me for a ride home today in my car. We'd barely crossed the Dawley Bridge when he yelled to stop. I asked if he felt sick. No, he replied. I just remembered. I came in this morning on my bike. Jeff forgot his own transport because his mind was busy inventing things. Here is another insight into the mind of Jeff, written by a friend who watched Jeff build his CAT scan at EMI. I've never seen a project that demanded so many shortcuts, used such unsuitable equipment, or needed so much improvisation. I think it's fair to say Jeff possessed more raw creativity than John, Paul, George and Ringo combined. Jeff also showed remarkable courage. After all, the medical establishment of the time thought he was out of his mind. We don't need a computer to see inside the brain, they scoffed. They also didn't know how a computer could see inside the brain. I don't blame them. 1960. How did a computer do anything in 1960? But Jeff was a visionary, a brave visionary, prepared to stake his career on his crazy brain scanner idea. So, back to the story. For 5 relentless years, he tinkered, improvised and toiled in the tiny engineering department at EMI, with next to no money and no equipment, trying to make his crazy idea come to life. Then, on Friday, October 1st, 1971, it happened. A volunteer climbed into Jeff's machine. The X-ray started spinning, the computer whirred, the sensors clicked. A silent hum filled the room. And then, after a long wait, for the first time in history, a picture of a living human brain appeared on the screen. Not a shadow, not a blur, a clear picture of the brain itself. 1971, a revolution had begun. Now, you think the medical community would go berserk, right? Actual proof his machine worked. Instead, total silence. Why? Well, they still couldn't fathom how this bizarre scanner computer thing might save lives. But did that stop Jeff? Like hell it did. Armed with his picture as proof, he booked a flight to America, where a major radiology conference was about to begin. He was certain he could convince the world's brightest doctors of his machine's potential. But when he got there, he found himself penciled in to speak during the lunch break. Here it is, 10:30, X-rays, boring. 11:30, more X-rays, boring. 12:05, lunch break. Computerised transverse axial tomography, Hounsfield, England. Handwritten into the schedule and the lunch break. It's unbelievable. 400 doctors had a chance to witness history that day, but not one stayed. They all went for lunch. Apparently, caviar and champagne trumped a revolution. So, as Jeff stepped onto the podium, picture in hand, he looked up and saw row upon row of empty seats in the giant hall. Only the 14 faculty members were still present, and only because they had to be. They alone witnessed the most important image produced in medical history. Our story doesn't end there. Fast forward to 1979, the medical world finally woke up. Jeff's invention was hailed as monumental. He received the Nobel Prize for Medicine, and a short 2 years later was knighted. His life-saving machine soon appeared in hospitals worldwide, becoming a household name. The CAT scan, the machine that could see inside a closed box, the machine that could see the unseen. It's as though Jeff really did unearth hidden gold, not in some dusty pyramid, but inside our own body. So next time you're in a hospital bed, head pounding, waiting for a scan, spare a thought for our man Jeff. That whirring, spinning donut is a life-saving marvel born of one man's unshakable dream to peer inside a pyramid. I think it's important to remember behind every life-saving device is like someone crazy enough to think it could actually be done. Yeah. And actually do it, not just like talk about it.